All right, folks, college football season is in the books. We are going to talk about it. Ohio State, the kings of college football after the national championship win over Notre Dame on Monday night in Atlanta. We got the full crew. Wayne Cook, Roddy Jones, Michael Felder. You will not hear much from me today. I'm just here to play traffic cop. I'm bringing you in, and I'm wrapping it up. Everybody's got takes, and we're going to get to them. A couple of announcements real quick just before we get this thing teed off. Basketball season has begun, much to the chagrin of everybody else on this show.
It has?
Yes, it has. Your beloved Gonzaga Bulldogs went 0-2. I think they dropped out of the rankings, Roddy. I'm sure you're excited for that.
No surprise there.
There are 2 ranked ACC teams. Duke is one. Can you name the other one real quick off the top of your head without looking?
Louisville.
Very good. Roddy is
locked in.
The guy is an absolute.
They're like 8-1 in conference. Let's go 7-1 or something like that.
Are you guys sexist? Or are you not even focused on the women's game this year?
Well,
that's why we have the Gower Hour.
Thank you, Felder. Thank you for reading the doc that I painstakingly put together. We are covering both the men's and women's college basketball scene. Myself and Matt Norlander, we do the men's basketball show. The Gower Hour drops every Friday here on the College Sports Now feed. Thank you, Felder. Rob Joyce, Megan Gower from her Hoop Stats. So if you need that
might be
Wayne,
a sport Notre Dame.
You need to know
that stuff is in your feed every Friday, okay? Speaking of basketball, by the way, your boy Mick Cronin needs to switch to decaf. He needs to chill, okay? He needs to absolutely chill. So here's what we're going to do. Ohio State won the Natty 34-23 over Notre Dame. That late field goal mattered to some of us.
Very important.
Very important for a lot of people, as Ohio State got the late cover for those of you that are interested in those things. But of the 4 of us, only one had boots on the ground at Mercedes-Benz Stadium last night. So first word goes to Roddy Jones. He was there. He did the SiriusXM pregame for like 4 hours. Then he did postgame until like the sun rose in downtown Atlanta. So, Roddy, I know you got takes. What were your biggest takeaways from what you saw Monday night?
The mental fortitude of this Ohio State team, I think, is tremendous through the playoff. I think that this is a team that obviously went through the ups and downs and didn't necessarily play to the level that we expected them to throughout the season, but the ability to go out and destroy Tennessee, destroy Oregon, find a way to win against Texas, and then hold on against Notre Dame, I thought was really impressive, especially when you have a team that the senior class was the highest ranked recruiting class of all time at Ohio State when it came in. It was the Jack Sawyer, JTT, like a bunch of these guys, Jordan Hancock, a bunch of these guys were in this class. Emeka Egbuka, they had not beaten Michigan. They'd not won a Big Ten title. They'd not won a national title, which is the Ohio State trifecta of you've won nothing. You've done nothing in your career. And so it would have been very easy to feel the pressure of that throughout any point in the playoff. And they did not. In terms of the game, I was impressed at how they responded after Notre Dame basically salted away the entire first quarter with an 18-play drive. And I was impressive that they were able to finish in the red zone, because if you look at the first halves that Notre Dame's defense played against Georgia, against Penn State, and against Ohio State, weren't all that different in terms of the way the teams moved the ball. Georgia moved the ball. Penn State certainly moved the ball. Ohio State moved the ball. Difference is Ohio State finished in the end zone. That was the difference. Defense got stops, responded with 2 3-and-outs after that 18-play drive. So I was really impressed. And then, look, the second half got squirrely on them. They took their foot off the gas a little bit. But they found a way to win. And that's ultimately the thing. Like, we're not going for style points in the national championship game. You win the game, you raise the trophy, you end up covering. Like, it was really an impressive and very deserving national championship win for this Ohio State team that we thought was the best team in the country. A lot of people thought was the best team in the country coming into this year. They finally realized it in the playoff.
It's a very measured take by you, Roddy. Felder, you made some faces during that commentary. Anything that you disagreed with there? The body language looked like you disagreed at points with Roddy's takes there. So
No. I think that what he said in terms of their deserving national champion, absolutely. I feel like we got sandbagged all season, honestly. But that's also why I don't like Ryan Day. And we can get into that in a little bit.
Hey, you can call him what you want, but you're gonna call him national champ.
He's a national champ, but he's still perfect play Ryan Day. And the fact that he like this team, they should have scored 50. They should have scored 50 points. They should have scored 50 points, oatmeal man.
Those might be overnight oats.
Oh,
I mean,
yogurt.
shout out to Roddy.
Okay, sorry.
That's meal planning. Okay, starting 2020.
They should have, but plan. Wayne, let's get Wayne in here. They should have scored 50 points, right?
So the whole second half, and Roddy, you said it. They may have taken their foot off the gas.
Yes, exactly.
I don't even know how to say this without. Has anybody played for a coach that gets conservative? Have you guys ever done that? Have you ever? It's frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah, I played for John Bunning. The whole thing was conservative.
Okay, so I dealt with the same thing. You can do whatever you want. I mean, I played in a game against USC where we were up 17-0 like that, and they couldn't stop us. And then you take your foot off the gas and you start. And the next thing you know, you're fighting to win a game at the end because you let them get back into it. And it felt like that's what I was watching last night. I'm like, after the first drive, and I was joking around about the text. I think it was you, Hartzell, that said that if they keep running the quarterback the way they are, he might die before the end of the game. And
he was tired.
And they didn't. They couldn't keep that up because I don't even think he trains that way. Like, I'm sure he's in great shape, but he's not a running back. He's not going to get 30 carries. So they couldn't keep it up. The Notre Dame playing from behind was a problem. So I don't feel like they're built that way. It doesn't feel like their pass game, even when they were trying to catch up, which to your point, Felder, the fact that this game was as close as it was at the end, which kept everybody interested, I guess.
Sure.
I blame that on Ohio State too.
Yeah.
I blame that on Ohio State too. I felt like, listen, the grit of Notre Dame is awesome. The way they played all year is awesome. The story of what Marcus Freeman did this year is awesome. Although his halftime interview was interesting. He was flustered. I don't know if you guys watched it. I don't know if you guys saw it, but go back and watch it. And he's been so calm and cool all year. He was like,
no answers.
He had no answers at halftime, and it was interesting to see. But they kept fighting, and they had a chance. But I blame that on Ohio State too. They had them. They could do whatever they wanted. I mean, I was talking to some other buddies. I'm like, are you gonna try to maybe throw the ball downfield at all? And then they finally threw the big one to Smith, who was behind the guy by 5 yards. So it just felt like they let Notre Dame hang around. So I will not, and that's not just, I'm not trying to disparage Notre Dame. Notre Dame had an amazing year. Yeah. Everything they did, all the players, I am not going to start bagging on anybody on that team. They couldn't run the ball, right? Which we all thought was going to be.
That's a testament to what Ohio State is able to do up front.
Yeah,
exactly. With Cody Simon, with JTT, like those guys played really good football. It was amazing. Like when I was writing about it, I was like, which 44 has a better game, right? Which 44 has a better game? And the answer is Ohio State's 44. So I think that's for real. I just don't like that they took their foot off the gas when they could have put 50 on this team. And the thing for me, Roddy, I wanted to ask you, why did they not play zone?
Well, because when they did, they couldn't stop them anyway. Like I don't think the man zone thing was a big deal. They couldn't get any pressure on Will Howard, and so when they played zone, they were
safeties
open.
Are at 8 yards.
Yeah, and they didn't get beat over the top of once. So like that's the only time they got beat over the top. Now certainly it was there. It was there more.
That's a Ryan Day problem.
Yeah, and maybe it's a Will Howard thing. Maybe Will Howard and maybe the game plan wasn't to just let it rain over the top because they thought they could get open underneath. And here's the thing, like they had the longest play. They didn't throw the ball down the field really much at all in the first half. Threw the ball 15 times in the first half, 6 times in the second half. They didn't throw the ball downfield. They still averaged 10 yards an attempt. And so everything that they were doing underneath was there, and they were getting chunks out of it. And I'm gonna push back on Ohio State letting Notre Dame back in the game just a little bit. Mm-hmm. I understand Notre Dame sort of hanging around, but that's the nature of low possession games. It was an 8-possession game. Ohio State touchdowns on its first 4 possessions. They settled for a field goal on the short field after the fake punt, and then they drove the ball down the field, and Emeka Egbuka fumbled. Like, that's the thing that got Notre Dame back in the game. It's a low possession game no matter what. So at that point when the fumble
happened, Notre Dame's game.
But at that point when the fumble happened, Ohio State had left a possible 4 points on the field. 4 points because they'd settled for the field goal. That was it. It wasn't like what Ohio State was doing had completely gone conservative. They'd had a 75-yard drive to start the second half. You can question the play calling a little bit. They had negative plays trying to run the ball on the field goal drive, but the fumble is what killed them. Like, the fumble is what made this a game.
But you guys are offensive guys. Was that a good defensive play, or was that just bad ball security?
Yes, to both. It was an amazing punch.
It was an amazing play.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a great play. I agree, Roddy. Like, I do agree. It was the Lopez. It was, first of all, Howard. Whatever you want to say about him, he was really good in this game.
Yes.
He made all the plays he needed. They didn't throw a lot. You just said it, because I mean the possessions were. I just thought the reason why I thought they started playing clock a little bit too early. It looked like they wanted to run the ball. They started doing the quarterback run. They started doing, and that's all I'll say. And like you said, it wasn't.
Yeah, the feel of, I guess it felt like that a little bit, and but the only, like, the first drive you could say that was the drive.
It was after
It was after the fake punt. Like, that drive, you could question the play calling, and I understand it because I sitting with Coach Neuheisel, and Coach Neuheisel was like, "Now's where you throw it over the top. Like, you haven't thrown it over the top. Now's where you throw it over the top." And so, yes, I think that drive, there's reason to be critical, but the next drive was very effective.
But yeah, well, and just. Listen, for both of these teams, they should be commended for the year they had. I'm sure people are tired of it. I really, again, and I've told you, I watch game day more than I had in a while, and this isn't a knock. I've always liked Herb Street, but I really like Saban on that show. I can't get enough of him. I wish that everybody else would just shut up and let him talk more. His defense of Coach Day, it almost like looking at these people like this is stupid. They kept putting up his stats with some of the legends, and again, we could talk about how many great athletes they had, but just look back to a couple of years ago when Texas A&M bought a team.
Sure,
it didn't work out.
Right.
You still have to manage the athletes. They talked about the coordinators that he was willing to bring in that could have challenged, like, hey, is this you or them? Like, if you have a big ego, you might not want that.
Right.
So what they – and again, I want to go back to what Roddy said so eloquently at the very beginning in your opening monologue was the idea that teams are going to have a hard time more than ever in this current era of college football of going undefeated.
Yes.
We're going to have teams that – I'm not saying it's not going to happen because it'll happen, but you're going to have teams that are going to stumble along the way, and both of these teams did. Both of these teams had ugly losses.
Yes.
Both of these teams, may or may not have been in the 14 playoff if we had it, and they just kept they kept it together. To me, that's what sports has always been. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. Like in every sport all of us have ever played, it's not about going undefeated in the regular season like Oregon and then losing. It's you might stumble along the way, but if you're playing your best football at the end, and yeah, luck of the draw and who you play in the playoffs and all that stuff's going to matter too. But they ended up playing their best ball at the end of the year. So I mean, all credit to both. But Ohio State, they absolutely deserve it. All of us will agree they were the best team in college football this year. I would think.
By the end of the season, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm okay.
And look, you win 4 games in the playoff. I don't care what happens during the regular season. Like, you get to the end and you win. It's like this is the Super Bowl now, where there's no argument, man.
Yes.
Like there's no that wasn't the best. Like Ole Miss, Ole Miss could have been. Get out of here. They won 4 games against good teams in the playoff.
This is the same as like what the Commanders are doing, correct?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like the Commanders win the Super Bowl.
To crown the Commanders. It's a little early, but
I'm just saying.
I'm telling you though, they're dangerous.
Dangerous.
They're dangerous.
Danger.
That boy good.
Woo.
So I'm looking at my notes right now, and Roddy, you mentioned it was a limited possession football game, and I got fourth quarter when Jeter missed that field goal.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's tough. And I wrote a lot of time wasted to doink it off the upright.
Well, hold on. Let's talk about it though.
That's a 5-minute drive. That's 5 minutes.
But do you kick there? I was like, it's going to be 13. I was struggling with the math, and I like to think I know stuff. I'm like, I mean, you've got a great chance to score. You got to get 8 twice, or you got to kick a field goal and then score twice again after that. Like I don't know.
Points is better than no points in my book.
Yeah.
What was it? Was 4th and 9?
Fourth and nine.
Fourth and goal from the 9. Yeah. So basically, you know, the percentages of converting that are very low.
Yeah.
So you're in a 2-possession game no matter what. Do you want to be in a 13.2 possession game or a 16.2 possession game? Like,
right.
I think kicking it was
That's fair. That's fair at the moment, and I'm curious at the moment. I wasn't even sure. I'm texting buddies of mine, and I'm like,
"Look,
what do you do there? What do you do there?"
I don't think Coach Neuheisel's a listener to our fine program. I had so much fun sitting next to Rick Neuheisel and watching the game because of his commentary. He's like, "This is 4 down territory. This is 4 down territory," and then it's 4th and 9, and I look at him I'm like, "Coach, we kick in here?" And he's like, I think so, but I hate it. Like he's debating it. I think you had to kick it.
You had to kick it, but you just look. Hey man, this is all you do.
Bro, you don't got to tell me.
So Neuheisel was raised.
It's a bunny.
That's exactly like that's. Listen, he's got to. He just put it on the square and let it go in. We good.
What were you saying, Wayne?
I was just to say Neuheisel was raised in the like. We studied all of us quarterbacks that played for Homer Smith at UCLA.
Yeah.
And Neuheisel was, and trust me, we still screwed it up because everybody acts like clock stuff is easy. But Neuheisel is an expert on that. He is really, really good at like when to use timeouts, when to kick, when to go for it. And there are moments in games though where you almost just have to go with your gut. But I wasn't going to be. I'm not going to ever be one of the. On that decision, I think you could have done either one, and I'd have been fine with it.
I think if you want to beat Marcus Freeman up for
exactly.
making, you could call him out for the fake punt, right?
The fake punt was the one that
was a fake punt that wasn't a surprise to anybody, and it didn't work. So
slow down. Catch the freaking ball.
Yeah,
that's a good throw. That was a good throw. It's like it was low and outside, but I'm sorry, receivers. Hey, Roddy, if you were in the game and you were the guy running the out right there and a low and away throw, and you got 2 hands on it with your arms underneath it, bull crud. And if you dropped it, would you be feeling like crap afterwards?
100%. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Then you should have caught it.
What did we see? We saw it in the NFL. Mark Andrews, right? On the 2-point.
Yeah.
By the way,
that was the same pass, same ball placement. Same drop.
No, slow down. That was a little bit. The Andrews one was worse. I mean, it was honest. It was a little bit on the back hip, but that was like waist high.
It's
like I'm sorry, but like
Buffalo,
I'm
right?
like I know, but I'm sorry, but like again, you got to catch it. Come on,
agreed.
Catch the ball.
Come on, catch
also
the ball.
Don't fumble.
Also,
don't have the ball out here. Right, have the ball in here.
Yep.
Like Roddy, you play running back, right?
Oh yeah,
at a very high level.
Have the ball out here, or have the ball in here.
Sometimes
you don't want it low and loose. You want it high and tight.
Sometimes
like he was carrying a loaf of bread.
Sometimes even when you're like we talked about Ekbuka in the fumble earlier, which by the way he had a great game too.
Yes, he did.
He had a great game. The idea of sometimes the guy makes a good play on the other side of the ball. Like sometimes that punch is perfect, and like no matter what you do, it's coming out. And I've never been a receiver or a quarterback that's ever been in front of anybody. when I ran, I definitely wasn't running away from people. But that's a tough one when you're trying to go and you're trying to score, and people are coming up from behind you, and all of them are taught to punch or to come down from the top. So like it's difficult, but.
And receivers aren't used to making people miss in traffic.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
And what happens when you make somebody what happens when you make somebody miss? Generally, is you're making abrupt movements, and the ball security can get away from your body, and receivers get away with it because usually they're in the open field and there's one or two guys around.
Right.
There's not usually the trailer, and Emeka Egbuka was cutting back towards the middle, and that's the danger. That's the danger there.
Hey, Roddy, just fun too, because I thought that we talk about players that played well. Judkins. I'm curious. I'm curious what you're going to tell, because first of all, he's the way he's built. He doesn't have that explosive, like when you watch Travion, and you're like, oh, when he gets any space, you think he might be gone. But if you pay attention, I mean, the workhorse is Judkins.
Yeah.
He's getting the bulk of it. This reminded me of the Georgia team with Sony Michel and Chubb. And it was like I kind of kept saying, hey, get the ball to Sony Michel a little bit more. But Chubb was like, he's just going to beat you up. And don't get me wrong, Judkins had some breakaway and some big plays. But I think that run game was because, like you said, with limited possessions, for them to be able to run the ball the way they did, and then Will Howard to be almost perfect. Like, because as a quarterback, I've said this all year, it felt like when we talk about Penn State, which, by the way, Penn State, we could talk about whether or not they should have been in that game or not. I still feel like they blew the Notre Dame game. But if you were going to play with a quarterback like Will Howard or Drew Aller, and this is not a knock on them, by the way, at all, having the run game matters. We saw it with Riley Leonard, because having to throw, they want to throw their quick outs, and it's like you need chunk plays at this point in time.
Yep.
And I don't know if they have that in what they do. And by the way, they can do that with Will Howard more. I think Will Howard's better than Drew Aller at this point in time. I don't know about potential.
I do.
I think he's a better quarterback when I watch his feet. But Judkins mattered in this game. He was really, really good.
He was so physical. Yeah, I'm sorry, Felder. He was so physical. Like, the long run was there, but the 9-yard touchdown run was so physical that I think he put his stamp on the game big time, Felder.
No, I love Judkins, and I will say this: we're talking about guys that played really well. Can we'll go back to the Notre Dame side? Great House, what a game! Like,
where's that been all year?
Thank you.
Did we just unlock that somehow? Is it just a stage thing?
You're down 31-7. Like, you need to find pass catchers. That's where that is. Notre Dame.
He's been on your team the whole year.
Like that. I understand, but they haven't needed it.
I'm sitting in the box, and I'm like, that dude made himself a lot of money today.
Yes,
because there's a lot of people watching that guy play. Like, we can work with that.
So I don't want to derail the conversation, because Wayne will take it to this place, probably organically. But I do want to ask this, because
6'1", 215. Let's go.
A lot was made about Ohio State and the cash that was splashed to build that roster. Quinshon Judkins, who had 3 touchdowns Monday night. A year ago, he walks into Lane Kiffin's office and is like, hey, man, we need to renegotiate what I'm getting here, because I'm worth more on the open market. He was right. Like, I'm not saying whether you agree or disagree with the system. I'm just wondering if, like Wayne, you brought up Texas A&M. It didn't work.
Sure.
But Stephen,
that's a management thing.
Until this is they're all playing within the rules right now. They're all doing. Everybody's a free agent. If you're a really good player, you have to tell your team, you either keep me up to par with what I'm worth, or I'm gone until they change it. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was something with revenue sharing that came out with the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Yesterday or so. It was pretty long. I read it as much as I could.
TLDR.
I read it as much as I could before I got ADHD and got distracted. But my God, as long as it's the rules, it's the world we live in, right, guys? I mean, that's what's going to happen.
My point is, you need both. You need a great management structure, head coach, coordinators, position coaches, all that stuff, which Ohio State clearly has now, right? But there's also the argument of, like, yes, you can go out and build this roster. You can go out and get a Quinshon Judkins. You can get a Will Howard. You can get a Caleb Downs. You can build this thing in free agency.
Downs had a good game too.
Yes, he did.
He
had a great season, for God's sakes. I'm just saying, not lost amongst all of this. Yes, the best roster, the best team won, but how that roster was constructed. Go ahead, Roddy.
Well, how that roster was constructed was not through the portal. It wasn't. They supplemented through the portal. They supplemented with the Caleb Downs, a Quinshon Judkins, and a Will Howard, a Davidson Igbinosun. But that's kind of it. That entire defensive line is homegrown. All those linebackers are homegrown. That entire offensive line is homegrown. That entire receiving core is homegrown. Like this is a team, that entire tight end room is homegrown. This is a team that recruited really, really well and then paid to retain its talent. Now, look, Caleb Downs didn't come cheap. Quinshon Judkins didn't come cheap. Will Howard might have come cheap. But when you look at this roster, you had to pay to retain Jack Sawyer and JTT and Jordan Hancock and Lathan Ransom. Like you had to pay to retain these guys. Emeka Egbuka. You had to pay to keep these guys, which made it a $20 million roster. And so we've all latched onto that as if this is Lane Kiffin building this. But Notre Dame, look at the final four teams. Notre Dame, Penn State, and Ohio State are like homegrown teams, a handful of transfers. Texas has like a few more than a handful, but generally a homegrown team, especially if you don't count Quinn Ewers as a transfer, which I don't, even though he spent 6 months at Ohio State. From Texas, all that stuff came back. So when you look at those teams, like the basis, that the foundation of those teams were homegrown. Texas had the most transfers, but they were not Florida State, they were not Ole Miss, they were not
Right.
And then the Texas A&M thing, we brought that up a couple times. That money was spent on a recruiting class that was chasing stars, and so it was never really going to work.
Stay long enough, yeah.
But and also a lot of them were locker room issues and ended up going, like Walter Nolan ended up being a really good player. Evan Stewart ended up being a really good, like these guys. Some of these guys went on to be really good players. But when you look at these teams, if I am an AD or a coach, and I'm looking at the construction of these teams that made it to the 12-team playoff, there's a mixed bag of how they were constructed. But you look at the Final Four, and it ain't no mixed bag. These are homegrown teams, and you have to supplement through the portal. But like, if you're like, we'll use Clemson for an example. I think Clemson is much closer to the formula than we give them credit for. We blasted Clemson for not getting in the portal, but I think they are much closer to the formula of getting to the Final Four. Certainly, and I would have said this last year after they were 13-0, certainly than Florida State. So can you find the balance, which Clemson is trying to do, and other teams? Can Ole Miss find the balance of that?
But it's
I don't know.
Do you want to find the balance?
Some teams can't do it. Some teams can't recruit at that level.
It's not even. I'm not talking about recruiting. Because when I look, you mentioned Clemson as being closer. I think whether it's with a good quarterback or a good running back or whatever, I think Wisconsin and Iowa are closer to the formula. Because
yes.
Retention, development, those are
but they don't recruit well enough to.
They don't recruit, sure, but what if Ohio State makes a misstep in the portal, or Michigan makes a misstep? Michigan, when are they going to get a quarterback?
They might have one. The freshman kid is supposed to be the bee's knees.
So we'll see. But like,
he can throw the ball 78 yards. Did you guys see that?
He runs a 4-1.
Joe Milton.
I know. I was laughing at that.
No, that's why I said it.
I'm
glad you brought this point up, Roddy. Jack Sawyer, who most people only know from the planting the flag fight situation, but Jack Sawyer, Ty Hamilton, Talik Williams, JTT, that's making guys want to stay. And I'm glad you brought up that point about you do have to pay to retain these guys, because I think retention is the biggest issue in college football. It's not NIL. It's not the settlement money. It's not the transfer portal. It's how do I make guys want to stay? How do I make them want to be here? And I think Clemson is another good point, because those guys want to stay at Clemson. They want to be there. They don't have the issues with attrition that Ole Miss has, right? Ole Miss, you lost your best running back. Why? Because he was focused on this one thing, not focused on these other things. And Wayne, you and I have talked about it. You got to make credits matter. You have to make, because those credits don't all transfer. I can tell you that right now. You got to make credits matter. You got to make development matter, I think that's the only reason that Bill Belichick is at UNC, which we can talk about that in a little bit, Roddy, because I can tell you what it's not going. Great. So,
but signed a contract yet?
No. Offer sheet, baby. So I just look at this, and you mentioned the linebackers, or you mentioned the defensive line, but Cody Simon, that's another guy that's been there. Homegrown. They make these guys want to stay, and I think that's important. And I think we're so, I don't know, we're in this kind of web of people viewing this as the NFL or viewing it as pro sports because the guys are getting paid or can get paid. And what they don't realize is there's also extra benefits. There's a reason that guys stay in. That's an NFL thing too, right? There's a reason guys stay in Pittsburgh. There's a reason that guys wanted to play for Belichick. There's added value that's not just financial. There's added value, and you have to make sure as a coach. And yes, is it more work? Sure, but I've seen your paychecks, dog.
Yeah,
maybe do a little bit more work.
Yes, that was compensated.
That's all I'm saying is you got to add value. Look, I worked in sales before I got in full time into this. I worked in sales.
So did I. Yeah.
And guess what? It sucks.
Fun. Slinging rugs.
Not fun.
Selling carpet throughout all of Atlanta. It ain't the move.
Bro, your boy was slinging lawn care out there. Shout out to True Green Service Master, baby. But you got to add value. And it's not just how much it costs, which is what we're talking about with the guy's financial gain, but you also have to show you'll have a deeper, greener lawn. You'll have you got to build all this extra value to make sure that they want to stick with your company. Basically, you got to make sure they want to stay with your company. And it's just, I don't understand how people don't see that. It's not just money. You gotta make that degree mean something. You gotta let them know that when you leave here, guess what? You're gonna have to come back to get the degree, because if you're here for 2 years, 3 years, when you go somewhere else,
1 year,
it's not gonna work for you.
Well,
development is critical. I know you're itching to get on it, Wayne.
No, it's all good.
You gotta build development. Which is why I think that having a roster of guys that are going to the NFL, which is what Ohio State has. Ohio State on offense has, skill-wise, they got 5 NFL guys.
At least.
At least. Just right now. That can go to
run through it. G. Scott's going to play in the league. Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson are going to play in the league. That's 3. Yeah. Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka, Carnell Tate's going to play in the league.
Yep.
Then you go to the offensive line. They probably got 2 or 3 on the offensive line.
2 or 3 on the offensive line, for sure.
You're probably looking at 7 or 8 guys that are going to play and that's not even counting Will Howard.
Yeah.
Tate's the perfect example of what you guys are talking about. Yes. He could be a number 1 in a lot of places.
1,000%.
For sure.
And you keep him on your roster.
And he'll never be at Ohio State because they got this Jeremiah Smith guy.
Yeah,
but that's the Miami thing, right? Remember when Miami had Frank Gore, Willis McGahee,
Clinton Portis,
Najee
Davenport.
You make them stay. They gotta want to stay there.
So Felder, I both of you guys, I 100% agree. There's more to it. You've got to convince. I'll give you an example. If you're UCLA,
mm-hmm.
a lot of our transfer portal athletes, not all of them, but a lot of them, even when Chip Kelly was here, we brought guys back to Southern California.
Yes.
Southern California is a sell.
Yes.
Home is here.
Home.
Weather is good. There's you got it. We may have $20,000 less to give you, but you're gonna get that UCLA degree. You're gonna get even in the Chip Kelly era, we were putting players into the NFL. We were developing the number 1, defensive draft pick. We were developing guys that play on Sundays. And if you can sell that and the money's not drastically different, because if you're talking about $500,000 different, that's hard to turn down.
Sure.
But if you're close, you could still win. But I'm going to take it a step further, and this has been going on for a long time. And I'll bring up Georgia Tech or North Carolina, for example. When you have a successful coach, how long do they stay around?
Right.
When you have that to me is where the money's always been a part. Keeping an assistant coach that is really, really good and being able to – DeAnt Lynn, just a couple years ago, going to get $1 million state D coordinator at UCLA, going to get $2 million to go to USC. Went to USC and had a worse defense, but whatever. Sorry, did I say that out loud? Just saying on. Anyway, the idea is that the money's always been a part of it, but now it's with these players. And I thought you guys nailed it, because if you can get guys to come back, because now this is what's fun too. And I thought this was going to be a bigger deal in basketball. The one and done thing was such a big deal that players, and I think sometimes, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but sometimes Quinn Ewers is a perfect example in football. If Quinn Ewers comes out after his freshman year, he's a higher draft pick than he is today.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Sometimes you play yourself down because the expectations are so high.
Well, that's like Tyler
you almost
Hansbrough.
can't leave. Well, there's a lot of these, yeah. So the idea is in basketball now, though, if you're that kind of a player, you don't have to go because I've watched it where I'm like, why is that guy? He averaged like 11. Kevon Looney for UCLA is an example, and he's been a good NBA player. But, man, I'm like, dude, stay in college for a couple years and develop and become a better player. Now, it's worked out for him. But there's a lot of other guys that end up in the G League and never make it. And we forget about all the guys that a couple years into the NFL career, you're like, where are they? And you start scouring the rosters, and they're not on one. Maybe they're on a practice squad because they're gone. So now guys are going to stay because they're going to make money. And in some cases, they might make as much money as they'd make in their rookie contract or more. So it just adds. Remember, Will Howard, you guys, was a cast-off.
Oh, yeah.
He was going to get beat out because they had a more athletic running quarterback. And so, like, that's what you talked about earlier, Roddy. Finding the pieces that fit. Like finding, like, not everybody's going to go out and get Jaden Daniels to transfer to LSU, which was a huge move. Remember, he was going the wrong direction at Arizona State.
Right.
But probably because the players around him.
Was looked at as a project when he went to LSU.
Exactly right. And now you find that's why the recruiting and the GMs and everything else is that you have to pay for. You better get a good one. Because there is talent out there. You guys have all watched practice. How many of you ever watched practice? Like I'll give you another from my school. Carson Schlesinger, I'm sitting there. He's a guy that was an All-American linebacker this year for UCLA. And he was a walk-on. And I would watch practice, and I would go, why is this guy not playing? I'm like, you could see the talent. Like, it was, like, obvious. It's like, this guy's a baller. I don't care how many stars a guy has. This guy's a baller. And it's like, and then they finally get a chance to get on the field, and they go off. I mean, it's like there's guys like that out there, and you can find, if you can find those guys that you look at him and go, on my team, this guy's gonna be. You got to put a Will Howard on a lot of other teams, and he would have probably struggled. You know what I mean?
Would have been what he was at Kansas State.
Exactly right. And
like
so
Big 12 champion, but
yeah. So like that, I don't know. All this stuff matters, but money plays a role in all of it. Keeping your players, retaining your players, developing your players, keeping your coaches. All of that stuff is huge.
Yeah, it matters.
Because as soon as a coordinator leaves, how many players leave with that coordinator?
Let me ask you guys a question. Obviously, Ohio State got the win. Okay, they're the national champs. Did you come away from Monday night thinking, like, you know what? Marcus Freeman will get one at Notre Dame.
Yes.
Was that a takeaway that you had, Roddy, being there?
Ooh, that face.
I ask because we've seen coaches in the playoff era, whether it's Dabo at Clemson, Kirby at Georgia, Harbaugh at Michigan, they took a couple beatings before they got it done, like before they actually won the first one. Harbaugh only won one, but Kirby and Dabo won multiple national championships. That's why I bring it up, because I feel like we've seen this pattern. We've seen it with Sark. He's knocking on the door. We saw it with Dan Lanning this year, although that was a short playoff tenure. I'm just wondering your takeaways from Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame and the program that he has built there.
I feel better about that with Steve Sarkisian than I do Marcus Freeman.
Okay.
And it's mainly because of history in the place. Like, Notre Dame deserved to be in the national championship game, but I think we can all agree they sort of overachieved to get there. How often can you overachieve relative to your talent? I don't know. Is it talent?
What did they overachieve? What did they? Where did they overachieve?
I don't think if you looked at that roster compared to the other rosters in the playoff, you'd have said that's a Final Four roster. I don't.
I think if you look at the path that they had to get there, I don't think they overachieved on the path that they were a better team than everyone that they played in the playoff.
Yes.
They were underdogs to Georgia and Penn State. Slight underdogs, but just putting that out there.
They were, and yet Wayne feels like Penn State let the game slip away. I kind of agree.
Georgia, Penn State.
Georgia moved the ball.
Dude.
Georgia, yeah. Well, that's fair. That's a different conversation.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's a Georgia team that Notre Dame was more physical than, and they deserved that win. But if again, turnovers and some of that's luck, but you can't discredit them completely for the turnovers because they did it all year long.
Sure.
I think that if you look at this Notre Dame roster, it is I think it's hard to imagine that they will consistently be able to do what they did to get to the national championship game this year.
Right.
Will they lead the country in turnover? How many more times will they do that? And if you don't,
I agree.
How much better is your talent to overcome the fact that you're not getting those extra possessions? They might have better quarterback play, but like, when's the last time Notre Dame's had a receiver? They're going to have to find explosive. So will Marcus Freeman get one? Maybe he will. He's a really good coach, and he seems to be an incredible motivator of people.
Yes,
but
I'm convinced. You're convincing me.
Well, I was talking to like a couple people, and it's like, who does this matter more to? And they're like, man, Ryan Day will be back. Like, when's Notre Dame gonna be back? And I was like, it's a good point. Like, if Marvin Harrison doesn't get a concussion, he's in the national championship game that year. He was in the national championship game in 2020. He's in the national championship game this year. Ryan Day gonna be back if he stays at Ohio State.
Right.
Will Notre Dame? History says no. But they're building.
What is it going to take? Because last time they were in a national championship game was what? 2012. 2012. So what's 12 years.
And look, in a 12.
They were in the playoff. What was they were in the playoffs in what? Was that?
They were in the playoff in 20. They got waxed.
Yeah, got
the playoff
destroyed.
in like 18,
something like that. Yeah, got destroyed.
So let's add into this. There's a reason why Notre Dame does not want to be in a conference. There's a reason.
Sure, money.
They get to make their own schedule, and that helps them. There's also and nobody wants. There's an academic factor. Like I say the same thing. Like before Michigan won with Harbaugh, it was 1997 with our guy John Jansen. Yeah. Before that, I mean, like Michigan is an academic school.
Sure.
Like it's there are some schools that care about school still. They're not going to give as much money to the athletes. I mean, I don't know what Notre Dame's paying their athletes, but like they have to build it in a different way, which means lightning has to strike. Like even at my Rose Bowl, you mentioned it, the year that I won a Pac-10 championship, we led the nation in turnover ratio. Like we led the nation, and we had 6 turnovers in the Rose Bowl game and lost by 5. Like we made up for it in our last game. But the idea is that stuff it matters, and so I agree. I think it might be, and that's not even a knock on. It's not a knock on Marcus Freeman at all. No, but there's a reason why Nick Saban ended up at LSU and then Alabama. Probably not Michigan State. If he had stayed at Michigan State for his entire career, would he be the Nick Saban we're talking about now?
No.
Because those schools are more – I love what you said about Texas. Sark has a better chance of being a Georgia or an Alabama run, of always being there at a – and I don't want to call them football factories because those are great schools too. That's not even my point. But you can get pretty much any athlete that meets the criteria into your school and on your team. And
they're all in your backyard, and that's Notre Dame doesn't struggle to recruit.
Exactly,
but they got to
access the talent,
access the talent. And speaking of spending money, they got to spend money to recruit.
Yeah, look, they got it. Like they just got $20 million for playing in the national championship game.
I know they got the money, but it's also and when I think about spending, I'm also thinking about spending time, right?
Yeah,
because time is also money. And what I mean by that is you got to get on a plane and fly to California. Mm-hmm. If you work at USC, UCLA, you get in a car and you're going to be there. If you work at Texas, like you mentioned with Sark, hey man, 35 minutes away from me, I can find some stuff.
Yeah, get to the chopper.
Get
to the chopper.
Just flies around. By the way,
chopper, and you just go.
You
can't
see this?
Do that at Notre Dame.
Is this fake news, Roddy, or is this real? Is Ed Reed really a high school offensive coordinator in Atlanta?
Oh, yeah.
That's real?
My alma mater, Chamblee High School. Jamal Lewis, the
Bro,
former
that's
Raven great,
wild.
is the
That's
director
wild.
of player personnel. Well, he's got a son on the team. Both of them have sons on the
Thank
team.
you.
That's the
Thank
same
you
as
for
Dre
the
Bly.
added context.
You know,
I
they sort of.
appreciate that.
That's what happens when Chambly's on the come up. Chambly on the come
Is
up.
that what's happening?
They
Okay,
well they
very
they
good.
they redraw them lines a little bit. Chambly on the come up. You get a little more of that Brookhaven. You get some of that big money, and you get Ed Reed and Jamal Lewis. Well,
So, hey,
and look, the lines being drawn thing is completely based on population. It has nothing to do with football, but it was a good. It was a good.
It helped, right? Myers Park had Dre Bly on staff until Dre Bly obviously got the job at UNC. Like I understand completely. I've been down to, I was in Florida for some recruiting stuff, and like, is it St. Thomas Aquinas?
Yeah,
they've got
fans. Isn't he the head coach there?
I think so. They got like three. Yeah, Pat Surtain. They got like three NFL guys just like around, and I do think that there's so much value to that in terms of
the Lions' backup quarterback was a high school coach this year.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater
got meaningful snaps in the playoff game.
Dude, by the way, my heart, I feel for my boy Ben, man. I don't know what's gonna happen. Ben Johnson.
Oh yeah, your guy.
Wow.
I don't know what.
He knows exactly what he's doing. He's a very well compensated individual, man. What
Steven, he's pocket watching. You're pocket watching everybody, Steven.
Yeah, I know Ben. I've been around, spent time around Ben. Ben's two of Ben's best friends are two of my best friends. Like we got this, like boom. This ain't even 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever. Like this is
deeper than rap.
Yeah, dog. Like I just hope the Chicago fans don't ruin him. That's all I'm saying.
But it's fine.
Nobody put a gun to his head, Felder. He's a grown-ass man. He made a business
Don't talk about Ben.
decision.
Ben is the sweetest boy I've ever met in my life. He's so nice and so kind and gentle.
He's a sweet boy. Just leave him alone. Be easy on him, Chicago. He's a sweet boy.
Ben Campbell was a great foil for Ben Johnson.
He looked at the Bears roster. He made a calculated
he's
decision.
He's got a talented young QB. I go win.
He had the I can fix him.
Listen, hey guys, let's go. Let's backtrack to recruiting.
Yeah,
let's do because recruiting I think matters. The Big Ten, the momentum has swung.
Yes.
Right? Like last couple years, it feels like the momentum is swinging. The argument for we could play 8 games in the SEC because we're so good that our schedule's still tougher than everybody else's. I feel like now, granted, when I watch games I don't know about you guys how you feel about this, but I tend to be on the side of when I watch these NFL games in blizzards and snow, I'm like, are we really seeing the best teams win, or is the weather winning? And when I watch the national championship game inside, I'm going, I'm sorry, old school people, and maybe because I have a lot of gray hair, I'm like, can we just build domes in those places? I mean, it's stupid. I want to watch Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen play to the best of their abilities, not in like 2-degree weather. It just seems dumb to me. And by the way, all of us have played sports in that kind of crap.
No,
it
all of us
sucks.
No.
If
all have it.
Okay. Well, I've sideline reported. in that kind of stuff when it was like 4 degrees, and I wanted to die. Yeah. But I played in the Palouse when it's real cold. I played in the like the idea is that when it's cold, I don't care who you are.
That's not football weather.
It sucks. So are we all agreeing on that? Like it's terrible. So I don't know what they're doing, but like I want the best. I want to see Lamar be Lamar. I want to see Josh Allen be Josh Allen. I don't care about the snow.
I don't know. I want to see the best football.
And I love the home playoff games, and I think that should continue. So I am of two minds because you get the environment, you also get the weather, but you get the environment. The thing is, if you seeded this thing based on the rankings, like a lot of it would have changed. Tennessee's a host instead of going on the road. Like a lot of that stuff changes if you just see it. Texas obviously hosted, but you get a different setup. So I do think that will cure some of it. Like you'll get it in better weather places, but you're going to get some of that. I do. I'm coming around to the Kurt Warner point of like, we're not seeing these teams at their full potential.
Yeah, I just want to watch athletes be great. Like I don't want to see the weather stymie the best athletes in the world. Like I was so excited. It was my wife's birthday, and we went to a place called the Living Desert. And the Ravens-Bills game was on, and me and my sons, it was like a triple date, like my wife and I and my boys and their girlfriends, and we're walking around the zoo. But we're every time we stop for someone to go to the bathroom, all of our phones go out to see and we're gonna make it home for the second half of that game because it's must-watch TV. We want to see the best of the best of the best. And again, the visuals of the weather is fantastic. Anyway, I digress. I do this a lot, Steve, and I apologize
no, okay.
with the NFL stuff. But
I want to bring this back to college because one of the things you touched on with the Big Ten, I think, is an important discussion point. The Big Ten has won the last 2 national championships in college football.
I do want to touch on that.
I think, as somebody who has grown up in the South and may or may not carry water for the Southeastern Conference every now and then, I think that's a very good thing for the sport. I think that's a very healthy thing for college football as a whole. Do I think the Big Ten is the best conference in college football? The NFL draft would say no. But I still think it's very good for the sport as a whole, the health of this thing being national. Your thoughts on that, Roddy?
Yeah, we are premature writing the obituary of the SEC as a power conference or as a national championship contender.
Nobody said that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that are saying that. There's articles being written about how there's articles being written about how NIL has changed because if you look at the amount of money that the North has over the South, like now the North can finally compete because you can pay guys over the table. What I would say is like look at the NIL budgets of the Southeastern Conference teams. I think if you took the average, it is higher than your northern schools. And that therein lies somewhat of the issue of the SEC. There is a limited talent pool of people that can get you to play at that level. And regionality matters when guys choose where to go to school. Yes. So a lot more guys are going to transfer from Arkansas to Ole Miss or Texas A&M to LSU than are going to transfer from Oregon to even Ohio State. But those are 2 outliers. Certainly Oregon to Minnesota or UCLA to Rutgers to rebalance the talent in the middle of the conference. I'm not even talking about at the top of the conference.
Right.
Or Ohio State guys. You look at Ohio State's roster, and these guys aren't transferring to Big Ten schools because they don't come from Big Ten country. They're transferring, if they transfer, which they don't, they're transferring to the SEC because they all are from Florida and Georgia or out west. They're from Arizona, like
Texas.
They're from Texas. They are transferring back down to places where the talent still resides for the most part. So I think the last thing I'll say about the SEC is that and look, I'm not Steven. I'm not boys of Greg Sankey, but you look at the quarterback play in the SEC this year. And
that's the problem.
The quarterback play wasn't good. It wasn't good across the country. But when you look at the SEC, like I was talking to some of the SEC guys, what team got good consistent quarterback play? And then you hem and haw, and you arrive at Ole Miss. But like, does it feel like you got Jaden Daniels level quarterback play? It does not. No. And then you're at like, well, did Texas? Well, how good was Carson Beck when Georgia's was good? So the quarterback play just did not allow them to overcome some of both the depth issues that the SEC is going to continue to face, and then some of the turnover issues, literal turnover with like Kalen DeBoer coming in to Alabama. So I think that will cure itself. The SEC will have better quarterback play next year. Lagway, Sellers, and Nussmeier. Like
love Sellers, love Nussmeier.
We're gonna get at the top of that.
Can I ask you a question, Roddy?
Iamaliava. So and then Arch Manning. So I do think some of that will be cured. Right. That doesn't mean that they're better teams though. And I'm sorry, Wayne. That doesn't mean that they're better teams because I do think the best teams were outside of the Southeastern Conference for whatever reason.
The only reason why I wanted to interrupt was because if I looked at Beck and he played on the same teams that Bennett played on, he's probably better.
He played on one of those teams and he was great.
Right, if Nussmeier, who I like quite a bit, I just wonder, like you said it at the very end there, the teams that these guys, like, is it the quarterback player or is it the team surrounding them? Did they lose their depth? Are they not as dominant on defense as maybe they've been to where, like we just saw it. When you only have to throw, when you can be a quarterback and complete, 17 to 23, I mean, that to me is a recipe for winning because that means something's going right.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like Iamaleava, like he's going to be good. I think we all see that. He's already good. He's just young. But they've got to be you don't want him to throw 40 times. I don't think.
I think they do want him to throw 40 times.
Well, maybe they do, but my point is like if you play defense, you run the ball, and then you can be more efficient. Well, it happened with Ewers this year. It just seems like he took a step back. I think part of it's because he was hurt. But still, they made it till the last 4 teams.
Sure.
And had first and goal on the 1 to tie it up against Ohio State. Like they were right there. I think your point is a good one, Wayne. There was sort of a weird year, but when I say the best teams too, you mentioned the defense is not being as dominant. You look at that Georgia defense, and then there's the question: why didn't Georgia's defense play more consistently? Right. Why didn't Ole Miss as a unit play more consistently? And you can talk about the environments and all that. You lost at home to Kentucky. Like that's the one that I'm talking about. You're at home. You're against the team that won one game in the SEC, and it was because they beat you. Why was Ole Miss not? That's when I say that, they were not the best teams because Ohio State didn't. Well, they did have that against Michigan, but Notre Dame had it against Northern Illinois, but they only had it once, and that was a complete team that the defense played really well, and they overcame injuries and all this stuff. So I do think the SEC needs to figure that out because I don't think they had the best. I don't think they had the best teams. They had the best collections of talent.
Let's go back to.
But there's a difference between collection of talent and a team.
Yeah, 100%.
Huge difference between collection of talent and a team. And Georgia
look at Ohio State, collection of talent, but Michigan made them a team.
Right. And I'll say it again. I feel like Ohio State just was freaking sandbagging us all year.
That 13-10 game in Columbus was
10 points
still.
With these dudes?
To this day. I mean, like
10?
Archaeologists are going to uncover that 1,000 years from now and be like, what happened? Like the unexplained mysteries of the universe. How could that team do that to that
national championship team? That national
crazy.
Championship team.
Wild.
So think about this, you guys. So like to me, when I watch the great teams, they're always when we get enamored with the skill guys because it's everybody can watch football and see the skill guys. The trenches to me when Alabama and Georgia, or even go back to the LSU. Like when you have great talent everywhere, but you're so dominant in the trenches. And we saw this a little bit with the teams in the national championship. Like when you lose an offensive lineman, for some schools it's you're in trouble. You're going to scramble to find the depth where you can plug someone else in that's big time. There have been, and I've seen it, where you have an offensive line where you can rotate.
Yes.
Offensive linemen throughout the game, which in my day we didn't do that much. Your starting 5 played, but now we've reached an era where up tempo football and stuff has mattered. Where you'll see a series or two, and I don't know if you guys know this when you watch games, but like if that second unit that comes in and gets snaps, and you're punting on those drives to get your guys a break so that they can come back in. Like I've watched teams where you can see the difference. When I watch the great SEC teams that we've all been privy to watching over the last decade or so, they're so loaded on. I'm not even talking about defense right now. When you have 4 defensive linemen, and then you have another 4 defensive linemen, and then you have a couple more after that, and they're all got 4 stars next to their name coming out of high school, and they're all 3 bills, and they can all move, and you're just going, what? Clemson went through their era where they were like this.
Yeah.
And you're like, my God, they're backups are
starters.
Future All-Americans.
Yeah. Their backups are starters anywhere else.
It is so hard. It goes back to what we talked about earlier, where if you can keep those players on your roster and convince them that this, first of all, you're going to end up being the ones eventually with some 2, and we're going to fill in behind you. I just think that, and again, I know a lot's been written about this, and I guarantee you smarter people than me are going to find out how to manage these rosters. But it's harder to keep the depth. It's so much harder, and I think we just talked about it. It's harder for Georgia to have the depth that they had even just a couple of years ago. And so you're going to have games where you're going to lose, or you're not. Alabama, I mean, they were good enough, I think, talent-wise, to win every game they played this year.
Yeah.
They didn't, though.
Right.
They didn't, though. And you could say that's because they didn't have Saban, but it could be other factors, too. It could be depth. You can have a bad game. I'm rambling right now, but I think the depth thing is going to be really, really hard, even for these elite teams. It's going to be hard to keep them together.
Who do you guys think is next? Like, Ryan Day needed a national championship, especially the way his regular season ended. But like, as you close the book on this season and you peek ahead to 2025, like who's a coach that needs to not just get to the playoff, but like actually make a run in the playoff? I'll throw a name out there. I think Lane Kiffin's an easy one. I think Kalen DeBoer's another one.
But isn't Ole Miss like the schools we were talking about earlier? Ole Miss is a school that when have they won?
That's what I was going to say. It's like Ole Miss winning a national championship, competing for a national championship. That's nice. It's very
Ole Miss
cool.
has never made it to an SEC championship
Kiffin
game.
That's what I'm saying, Steven. I'm saying that like literally like their fans are happy if they win 9 games. That's good.
Yep.
That's good.
Kiffin's perfect.
My God,
he's perfect for Ole Miss. They're gonna if you run him out of town, Ole Miss fans, you're dumb. Yeah. He's perfect. He's fun. He's entertaining. He's great on social media.
Interested.
You're winning a ton of games. You're going to throw the crap out of the ball. It's a great environment. You still have to compete with the Georgias and Alabamas and LSUs.
So hit me with a name. Who needs to get it done? Not just in the regular season, but in the postseason.
Go ahead.
I think the guys that need to make it and probably make some noise. I think Dan Lanning's got to win some playoff games. Like,
there you go. Good call.
Now he's won a Big Ten championship, so
yeah, but getting embarrassed in that game was.
He ain't played nobody. Yeah,
it's not good.
I'm with you.
It's not great.
Oh, shut up! He played.
Wayne,
the.
I'm just
he played.
Wayne,
he played the top teams. He played Penn State. He beat Ohio State.
Wayne,
he beat.
I'm teasing. Wayne, I'm joking with you, man. We've been doing this show together for 10 years. You can't tell when I'm trying to get you to take the bait.
I'm gonna tell you what.
Dang,
I think Mike Elko. I'm gonna put Mike Elko on.
I don't think he's there yet. I don't think he's there yet.
Station for 9 months.
I don't think he's there yet.
But
I think Mario Cristobal is.
If Sark wins a national championship, and they don't make the playoff, we all have been around and we all know we've been on the internet too. We know how Texas A&M fans act.
Nah, they're all right. I think
Sark
when have they ever been all right?
I think
Sark will have more pressure this year.
Yes, he will.
Then because of Manning, people are expecting him to be this much better than Ewers.
Yep.
So Sark's going in with more expectations next year.
You mentioned Mario Cristobal.
I think the this is a Texas thing real quick. Like they're going to have to replace that whole defense.
Yep.
So
again,
I think the Manning thing could inflate it, but I think if Sark gets to a Final Four again, which like that team's going to be talented enough to do it, or even if they make it to a quarterfinal, like I don't know that he's going to be on the hot seat. Because he's restored that Texas program. I could be wrong,
sure.
but I think I look at Mario Cristobal and I'm like, that's the guy that needs to make the playoff next year. Like he has to.
He should have never been hired in the first place.
No, he should have been.
Oh, I am not a Cristobal. I watched him at Oregon.
Wayne, I know you hate Mario Cristobal, but he's elevated. He's elevated that program.
What are they going to be? What are they going to be next
He'll
year?
recruit and then he'll coach them to underachieve. Yeah.
Right. Would you rather
gone.
not recruit and try and coach them up and end up in the same?
But it's the U. I mean, come on. We got to have higher expectations.
Yeah.
Cam Ward's gone.
Yeah.
So what are they going to be?
Well, talented. Like that offensive line will still be good. They get Mark Fletcher back, so the running game should be pretty good.
Carson Beck.
Carson Beck's coming in, and look, you know what Carson Beck are we going to get post? Oh
Take
Lord,
it easy, man.
Lord.
Take it easy.
Why do you guys all hate Carson so much?
I don't hate Carson Beck.
I don't hate him.
He's a solid quarterback.
I don't hate him. I don't think he's that good. I don't hate him.
In the current era, we talked. Roddy, you said this earlier. In the era of this year, I'm honest with you. I know they're talking about Shadur and Sam going high, and I'm fine with it. I like Shadur better. But like, I hope he goes to the right place.
Sure.
Which maybe they'll orchestrate that. But the idea is this is a bad class.
Oh,
and by the way, I don't mean they're bad players. I would draft these guys much lower, but Carson Beck, he moves into my top 7 in the country this year. I think he's solid. Yeah.
I pulled up the CBS Sports because I got to do some draft stuff anyways. Pulled up the CBS Sports quarterback rankings right now. Cam Ward 1, Shedeur 2.
Don't say Aller, even though he's not coming.
Jalen Milroe 3.
Ooh.
Quinn Ewers 4.
Why?
Jackson Dart 5. Kyle McCord 6. Curtis Rourke 7.
McCord I can live with.
Riley Leonard 8.
Yeah.
Will Howard 9.
That'll switch. That's got to change.
And here's their rank. Hang on. That's where they rank among quarterbacks, right? Here's where they rank among prospects. Cam Ward 4. Shedeur 10. Jalen Milroe 32. Quinn Ewers 52. Jackson Dart 82. McCord 90. Curtis Rourke 105. Riley Leonard 106. Will Howard 127.
What's the source on that?
CBS Sports.
Okay, all right.
Well,
and the thing for me is like, we just had a quarterback draft, like people were saying, like for the ages, right? Like a ton of guys getting picked super early, and we'll see if they pan out. I don't know what it's going to look like for what's his name, the cat from UNC, who I should know his name, and I can't even remember it.
Yeah,
Drake May. Like, I don't know what it's going to look like for him going forward, but this draft is one where it feels like everyone's a lot more measured on what they have, and no one's really in love with any of it.
I'm in love with Penix, but we can save that.
Oh yeah,
that was last year. That was last year. I'm talking about this year.
If he was in this year's draft, he would be a mile ahead. He would be the
first pick.
Bo Nix would be. And people doubted him, and look what he's done. He would be above this group. Because remember, more than ever in our history, are we valuing, like, I'm sorry, but Jalen Milroe is kind of in that Levis range for me.
Yes.
Freaking just a freaking arm that who knows where it's going.
He goes to the right OC. Look,
but you guys, the running, he has to, like, listen, Jalen Hurts as a runner has become he's learned, just like Lamar Jackson, they've become really good NFL passers. It is hard.
Really well, better. I mean, that passing game this year was very publicly
Jalen Milroe to me
by the guys in that locker room.
No, Jalen Milroe to me should not be. I would be like, I would run from that one.
If you're a second round pick, I think you take Jalen Milroe and you think
as a project.
If we get in that situation. If we get in this situation, can we Lamar Jackson this thing? Like, Lamar Jackson was basically a second-round pick.
Not even Lamar. Can we Josh Dobbs this thing?
No, because what you're talking about with Jalen Milroe is the most talented runner that we've seen coming out.
No. Slow down, though, Roddy. As a running quarterback, the only person in the history of the NFL that I could relate Lamar Jackson to is Michael Vick. There's not other athletes that have that unbelievable burst. Like even Jalen Daniels, I love Jalen Daniels because of how great of a throw. Like when I watch him and I watch CJ doesn't run like Jalen. But CJ, the way they throw is like wow.
But now you add what they can do. He's a lot more Steve Young.
Jalen Milroe is not a thrower at all.
No, he's not. But
at all.
I think a lot of the criticism of Jalen Hurts coming out was much the same in the way that Lincoln Riley used him at Oklahoma.
Going to Oklahoma was
the thing is, like, we're comparing, what Jalen Milroe is coming out of college to Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and we want him to be a top NFL quarterback. There's 32 jobs and like half the dudes in the league kind of stink. Yeah. So you might as well get one that like kind of stinks and can run really. He's the best tailback in the draft this year.
I agree with that, and he's going to have to develop as a quarterback.
I'm not as football smart as you three guys, okay? But in my experience, it feels like the organization that drafts you as a professional football player, the coordinators and coaches that are around you matter way more on Sundays than they do on Saturdays. That is my observation, especially if you're talking about a quarterback.
But if
Daniels has Cliff Kingsbury calling plays for him in Washington, D.C.
Agreed.
That matters a hell of a lot more than what Caleb Williams has in Chicago, which is nothing.
Quick comment, though, about Shedeur. If he can be coached out of holding onto the ball as long as he does,
right?
he has a little bit of, if I'm going to compare anybody to what, and this is dumb, but to what Patrick Mahomes, because Shedur's
That's what I was going to say, too.
The fastest guy in the world. The way he can extend plays, the way he has arm talent. Yeah. He was not surrounded by the best. Yes, he had Travis Hunter, but
Dude, he had
great receivers. No, he did.
4.
But I'm talking about the O-line.
Yeah.
Like for
he can buy time.
And we talk about having run game and stuff like that. If he can get in the right situation, where a coach could, you can't hold the ball in the NFL for as long as he likes to in college. But if he can, the way he can go through his progressions and play quarterback, and he's athletic enough to move around, which is such a huge. That's why quarterbacks, like when you look at Will Howard and Drew Aller, for example, I look at them and the way they run in college, they will not be able to do in the NFL.
No, because they're going to be slow.
They're going to be. Yeah, go ahead.
I think Shedeur, a lot of his mobility is going to decrease in the NFL because he's not fast.
No, he's not.
So I think a lot of that.
But neither is Mahomes.
But Mahomes is more
crafty,
twitchy, and I think coming out of college, Mahomes was faster. Like he's dad bod now, Mahomes. But
like
coming out of college, I think
he's
Shedeur.
Yeah,
I think for Shedeur, you're looking at like a modern day Drew Brees is what you're hoping for.
That's what you're hoping for. That's
the ball out quick.
He's got good. Do you agree that he has good feet?
Great feet. Drew Brees had great feet.
Yeah.
Mahomes, and even Drew Brees. That's Whole Foods. That's Harris Teeter Publix. When we're talking about Shedeur, we're talking about Aldi. Okay, this is Lidl.
Come on, man.
Wow, that sounds disrespectful as
hell.
hell.
It's disrespectful. Those are good grocery stores.
I got to pay for my cart. Like I got to give you 25 cents just to get a cart.
You get it back.
I know, but like, why do I got to carry a quarter, my dog? Like,
why don't you trust me to take the shopping cart? Like, why are we?
Because
like,
people leave the carts all over the place at other stores.
I don't even care that much about that quarter. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Well, look.
25 cents for a cart.
Okay, ESPN, serious Roddy money.
I mean,
hey man, that cart went a lot more than 25 cents on the open market. That's all I'm saying.
I feel like you could have gone Food Lion there, Felder. Like,
I'll take Food Lion.
Yeah, Ingles. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying he's like Kroger. This is. I'm not calling. Look, I didn't call him Piggly Wiggly.
You said Aldi, my dog.
Yeah.
That's a great value place. Like this
value. He's a neighborhood Walmart, the grocery store.
I'm just saying.
By the way, you guys need to chill with the Mahomes comparisons. Like that needs to stop.
No. Well, slow down. The only reason why.
Hold on. The only reason why. That's why I did what I did.
But the only reason why I do that is because we have entered an era where if you're gonna be a true drop back guy, you better freaking be Joe Burrow. And by the way, Joe Burrow has some agility.
Move.
He can. But my point is you better be excellent in the pocket. So when I talk about Mahomes, and I bring this up all the time, I looked it up. He ran like a 4.8 at the combine. Like he's not a guy that has, but he makes people miss. He extends plays. He's got ridiculous timing. And as an athlete,
very strong core.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the way that he changes his arm slot.
So my point is that when you talk about a quarterback that you watch, like we saw it with we talked about Ben earlier. Caleb Williams could toy with people in the pocket and make you miss.
Sure.
Now, when you compare to Mahomes, and I put him as the unicorn, whenever he's moving around, and I see this from Joe Burrow too, his eyes are downfield. He knows where everybody's at. There's guys that can move in the pocket. Tom Brady could do this. They can move up and slide over in the pocket while going through their progressions. Like there's an art to that. Like nowadays, if sometimes the first read's not there, guys start running around and they're not looking downfield.
Yeah.
And so they die in the NFL. Two good athletes, they're going to kill you. So if you learn to be, like I've seen it from Shedeur, he can move in the pocket.
Right.
Cam Ward can do it too. They can move around in the pocket. So the arm angles and all that stuff, every young quarterback now practices that since they're 2 years old because of Mahomes. Like we see Stafford do that all the time. Like I don't know if he was doing that in college, but he's got all that stuff too. But you have to have that pocket presence. So when I look at a future NFL guy, Steven said it, go to the right franchise. So some of these guys, if they slip in the draft, are going to have an advantage.
It's better.
They're going to have an advantage over the guys that might be taking the top two. And so I don't. You gotta have an agility in the NFL that maybe you didn't have to have. It would have helped 10, 15 years ago, but it doesn't mean you have to run. It doesn't have to be you be Milton. But my point is Milton. His throwing is so far behind. His feet get off balance a lot. He's wild. Like, as an athlete, I agree, but I also agree that he needs to be coached really, 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 really well if he's ever going to be an efficient NFL quarterback as far as throwing the ball. Or he's going to have a great OC that's going to, like what I thought Kalen DeBoer should have done with him this year. Like, you have to coach a quarterback like that correctly.
Yes.
To win football games, and they did at times, but at other times I think they went away from it.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody know where the national championship game, without looking, is in 2026?
Ooh.
That's what I know.
Don't tell me. Detroit.
It is at Hard Rock in
Miami.
Okay,
Miami.
South Florida. Who will be playing in that game next year? Wayne, we'll start with you. Teams.
You're just going to
Who's
keep
going to be on the Who's going to be on the teams?
I mean, I feel pretty confident that it's going to be a home game for the Florida Gators. I just don't know who they're going to be playing.
Oh,
is it
my
going to be
goodness.
Oregon, or is it
Steven,
going to be Georgia? I just don't. I mean, I'm
we're recording this, right?
Pretty sure
This
the
is
Gators
insane.
Are be there.
This guy's letting his freak flag fly, dude.
DJ Lagway all day. Let's see it. I believe in you, son.
So, by the way, you can't. It's difficult to pick Oregon, as you pointed out, because
I know Dylan Gabriel's going to be gone.
Maybe
well, it's not only that. It's like I don't know. Are they going to? Is Dante Moore next in line there?
Let's
are they
go.
Former
UCLA great Dante Moore.
But they've got some other. They're going to have some other names on that list. Well, who's a freshman?
Did he throw in that game?
Too many.
No, but no, you got to go. I think. Do you go with Texas? Do you go with Georgia? Do you go with, who's Alabama? Hard. Who's Alabama going to bring in? Who's Alabama going to bring in to throw the rock?
Well, I think it seems like it's going to be Ty Simpson. Like, there's nobody else to go get unless you're going to tamper the hell out of somebody, which you could do.
But
there's nobody in the thing.
Who would you tamper the hell out of in the country that would leave?
Exactly. I literally did a show about the transfer portal, and like everyone's they're locked in.
Hey, by the way,
unless something happens after spring, right?
The biggest name should have been, and Quinn Ewers could have earned himself a big paycheck. I'm scared. I still think he has more talent, arm talent, than most of the quarterbacks we've been talking about. I think he needs to be better with his feet. I do. I think his arm talent is amazing. But Quinn Ewers could have made a lot of money if he would have been a free agent this year in college.
Yeah.
And how good would Quinn Ewers be in a Kalen DeBoer system?
I think the same could have been said for a Jalen Milroe. If that guy had hit the portal, I think there would have been a lot of teams knocking down his door to play on Saturdays.
Did he have another year?
Yeah, he did.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay.
There were talks of like, hey, Milroe could transfer to Notre Dame. Like, that would be a very nice and attractive transition. That's a good fit for him.
I'm curious what you two think about this.
Going pro.
Does the NFL ever have to? Will they have to rethink their rookie?
No,
structure?
I think the NFL loves this.
No,
stay in college and develop.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because guys can't stay and make as much money or more.
They fixed the guaranteed money problem, which is Sam Bradford signs for $50 million guaranteed without having played it down in college. Like, they fixed that.
They fixed that, and I also think I don't even think it's like. I think development is an interesting word. There's some coaches that develop you to be an NFL football player. I think the NFL is like, I want your body to develop. Like, I can turn you into a football player.
Now,
just show me what you can do.
I agree. I'll also say this. I read a report that Carson Beck's getting 4 something to play at Miami, right?
Cool, awesome.
I'm just saying that's more money than Will Levis makes as a second rounder for the Tennessee Titans by a significant margin. So just putting that out there.
You get to live in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying there's a path for these guys to earn what they are, quote unquote, worth.
The real question about Carson Beck is how much less did he take to go to Miami to be with his girlfriend? Because that's the true value of love. Like, is it $1 million less? Is it $2 million less? Like, how much was that love worth
Long-distance
to him.
relationships are tough. We've all been there. Don't act like you're too big for it. We've all been there, guys.
Look, man, but like, hey,
Yeah,
look,
my girlfriend in college lived in Boston for a year. Like she went to Boston University.
And
would you have moved? Would you have moved to Boston for $1 million less than you could have gotten somewhere else? Like, was the love worth $1 million? Exactly.
Man,
so if you're Carson Beck, like,
can you imagine looking into those eyes?
Bro, look, here's the thing. Here's what I'm saying. I'll be
look, $1 million is a lot,
here's what I'm
a lot of money.
They asked me to travel to Utah.
Also, not a big fan.
I don't want to live in Boston. I'm not trying to live there. No disrespect to the folks in the mass, but no, I'm not. I don't want to live there. There's no way. Could never, would never. But all I'm saying is like we had fall break. We played Utah that weekend. Your boy had a good week of practice. They said, hey, you know what, Felder? Come to Utah with us. Come travel. And I was like, man, I bought this plane ticket 2 months ago. I am going to Boston. I'm not going to Utah. I'm not going to Salt Lake City. Listen, I'm in college. I can't lose $400.
Right.
So if I'm not like,
priorities.
I like my relationship, but like, no, it's just, but if it was to transfer to what, BC, I guess that would be, right? Is the equivalent? I don't know, man. I don't know if I could do it. I tell you what, give me the extra money. I fly you up.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
NFL draft. When you watch Tuimoloau is so good for Ohio State, right?
Yes, he is.
He's an absolute size. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't have his numbers. He's so fast.
I got it right
such
here.
a good player, great instincts. Like at the next level. Same with Sawyer to me. Does he have that extra burst needed to come off the edge? I'm just curious because sometimes, and this is not a knock because I may have fit into this category, probably all of us did. Being a good college player doesn't always translate. We're talking so much about quarterbacks.
So
I'm just curious about, like, those guys are really, really good on the – I mean, I think Downs is the one guy I would say that guy's going to go and be a 10-year super. Yeah. He's going to be really, really solid just because he's such a good player. I'm curious on the other ones and what their draft stock is and where they might end up and what it might look like. Because there's a ton of guys that have great college careers that don't translate.
Yeah, I think if you look at especially that Ohio State defense, like I think Tuimoloau is going to play 10 years in the NFL. He'll probably never be an All-Pro, and probably never a Pro Bowler, but like he's going to have a great NFL career because he's going to be a stout defensive lineman in the run. He's going to rush the passer enough. Like and he's got the size. He is at the position that is not bust proof, but like the safest position to pick people because of size and speed. Like there's only so many humans on this earth that are that size, that speed. He's going to be fine. Jack Sawyer's the bigger question to me because I think there's some fit questions. I think he's a little light in the tail. He's I don't think he's quite athletic enough to be a linebacker, a little stiff. So, that's sort of the question to me. Where does he fit? But I think he's a guy that can play in the league. Ty Hamilton and Tyleik Williams will play in the league for a long time. Like those two guys will play in the league for a long time.
Yep.
So you look at this defense. I think Lathan Ransom's going to find a way on his NFL team, but you may not have an All-Pro on this defense other than like Caleb Downs. Like that's the guy.
Right.
But the rest of them really solid.
I think Downs has got a little Kyle Hamilton in him. I don't think he's as tall or as long, but he's got he's got good range.
He's a better tackler. He's as good an open field tackler as there is.
That's what I was going to say.
Ridiculous.
But he's really good coming downhill. Ransom is going to be somebody. He's going to make a lot of money on special teams. And then I when I look at JTT, I see like a Dante Fowler type. Like, Fowler was kind of overdrafted, but at the end of the day, he's a guy that's been in the NFL for how long? Almost a decade, right? Like this guy's been in the NFL for a long time. So I think that's like when I look at him, that's what I see, and I see a guy that he was drafted in 2015. So Fowler will have been in the league for a decade once the season starts, and he's still playing.
Can't wait to see these guys walk across the stage in April. Where, you ask? Where is the NFL draft?
I don't know, man.
Green Bay.
Lambeau Field.
Are you kidding me?
I knew you'd love that. Yeah, I knew
that sucks, dude.
Yeah. Fantastic. You don't get to
kidding
go to
me?
Vegas. You don't get to go to Broadway in Nashville. You
But
don't
how
get to
do
go
you
to New
even-
York City.
How do you even get there?
You
Milwaukee.
fly, Felder. You can fly into Wisconsin. They have airports. It's crazy, right?
Hang on.
Horse-drawn buggy.
I'm being serious. My buddy, my boy Ryan Taylor played for the Packers. He was like, "There's nothing here."
There's airports, buddy. Trust me.
There's
airports.
hotels. Like, they host games there.
Yeah. There's an NFL
Everybody will
stadium.
stay in Milwaukee, I think, right? It's
Crazy.
45 minutes or whatever.
Nah, dude, it's an hour and 45 minutes.
Oh, my
Oh, is
God.
it that long?
Yeah,
oh my
dog.
Gosh.
I
Well,
pulled
guess
it up
what?
on Google.
They can get in the chopper. They can just fly
It's
in
an
the
hour
chopper.
and 45 minutes.
Green Bay is that far north? I did not know. that.
117 miles.
I
to
tell
fly
this
to
story.
Green Bay.
I feel like I
Dog.
tell this story every year, but Roddy will appreciate this because him and I both went to DeKalb County Public Schools. I was allowed to have a starter jacket when I was in high school, but it had to be a team that was non-threatening. Okay,
Austin
couldn't
Straubel
be
International
Michigan,
Airport.
couldn't be the Raiders, couldn't be Georgetown. I had a Green Bay Packers starter jacket. That's a true story. Why? Because my parents felt comfortable with me wearing it to school. Nobody was going to beat me up for a Green Bay Packers jacket.
Attaboy.
That's like the
Attaboy.
safest, whitest jacket you could possibly own.
Yes, it is.
As a
Oh my
student at
gosh.
Snapfinger Elementary and then Columbia High School.
Oh, boy.
Folks, that is
Hang on,
I wanted to kind of answer your question, or at least broach your question on who's going to play in the national championship game next year.
Okay,
I-
hit me with it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
totally
gonna-
avoided it. Yeah.
I'm not going to give you a team, but I do think there is a pool. Like, there will be a pool of teams. There's probably 15 teams you can pick
half
right
the
now,
SEC. Yep.
and one of them will play. I don't think it's half the SEC. I think it's much less than half the
I
SEC.
think it's probably 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think it's 3 or 4 teams in the SEC, and we'll see what pans out. But I will offer you the most interesting team going into next year. The most interesting in terms of getting to a national championship game is the Pennsylvania State University. I think
Yes.
Penn State is the most interesting team in the country
They
in terms
Everybody's
of-
coming back.
of
yeah.
where they are as a roster. And
got
they
a
have
taste.
They have a quarterback, which none of these other teams that we are going to talk
Right.
about have a quarterback that has been with them. They've had the taste. They got Katron. Like, that is the team that I think we need to be like, is it Penn State? Is it Penn State's year?
Big game, James. Big game, James.
So here's all I'm going to
and
say.
maybe that's the answer to your question for the national championship game thing.
All right.
I looked up the departures and arrivals for
Oh.
the
Green Bay?
Austin Straubel International Airport from Green Bay. Chicago O'Hare, Detroit, Chicago O'Hare, Minneapolis, Chicago O'Hare, Minneapolis, Chicago O'Hare, Detroit, Chicago O'Are, Chicago O'Hare, Detroit, Chicago O'Hare.
Man, you can't even fly direct from ATL?
Listen,
They got
nobody's
one
flying
from Atlanta.
767s in there, okay? We're flying the PJs in.
They got one from Atlanta, 10:05 p.m.
Love that.
There we go. Falcons fans, grab it. Grab
Love
it.
that. There
Falcons
you go.
fans.
Hey, Roddy, who does Penn State play in their non-conference next year? Do you know?
Oh, it's a
You haven't
great
looked
question.
up?
I would
I got
guess
it
it's
right
Maryland.
here.
Well, I want to make a point about this.
Go
Drew
overtime
Aller, we've
here.
talked about him, and I swear to you, I do not hate the guy.
Yeah, you do.
He's development. He's got to keep developing. Franklin talked about how he got better this year than he was last
Oh
year.
my God, it's worse
Okay.
than I thought.
Nevada,
FIU, and
FIU,
Villanova.
No, but here's my point. Here's my point. Hey, here's my point. You need to throw the ball in those games, like your Ole Miss. You need to throw the ball in
They
those
won't.
games.
They won't do
But
that.
I know they won't. But I need to let Drew Aller be a QB that throws it 45 times in those games. You're going to
Won't
win
happen.
anyway. They've got to develop him in a way to where it's like we saw it with the quarterbacks. If you don't want to go into the playoffs and be that team that can't win if you're down 14, and I'm not saying they can't come back, but turn them into, like we talk about Jalen Hurts going to Oklahoma. I think that helped him so much. I really do. I think going to a system that you could be different than what you've been matters for development. So I'm intrigued by Penn State. I'm very, very intrigued. But I also don't want them to be a copycat of what they are this year, or they're going to end up being disappointed.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. Boys, another season in the books. I have enjoyed it. It's been a wild ride. Wayne, we've reached the part of the calendar where you start texting me.
I don't.
Just
Yeah, can we
begging
do
for
another
airtime.
show next week? I mean,
Right.
what's going on? We need to talk
We're
about.
ready for the
off-season.
NFL draft preview
go.
already.
Are
I
you
know
saying
Let's
this
do
is
it.
our last show? I mean, what's up?
I'm not saying it's goodbye forever. It's just so long
Masters
for
preview.
now. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we got all
Hoop
these.
season,
Master
baby.
Pool.
I'm slapping the floor.
Hey man, we
over
can
here.
talk Coop. Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
Keep her
come on.
flagged. Yes.
Janai Broom's hurt.
Yes, Janai Broom is hurt. Very good.
What you want? What you want? Let's talk some hoops.
Well,
Let's go.
Roddy's like, bro, I'm
Come on.
worldwide. I talk hoops,
Mr.
basketball,
Worldwide.
baseball,
Mr. Worldwide.
lacrosse,
Oklahoma, North Carolina. Let's
prestige.
Dude,
worldwide.
20
go.
They are
Yo,
so
I
mad.
got takes on these. I got takes
They
on
are
these coaches.
so
that are
mad
leaving
here, Roddy.
mid-season,
They are
too.
so mad.
Jim Larinaga and Tony Bennett wouldn't have lost if they were better at their jobs or wouldn't have left.
How about
Hey man,
that?
I'm bad at my job and I have a bad team, so I'm out. Good luck, deuces.
That's why I don't
They-
feel bad for coaches ever,
Yep.
ever when it comes to this stuff. Those
You know
guys
what?
are
I'm
very
tired
well-paid
of the current
individuals.
landscape of college football that I'm not great at, so I'm going to leave right before the season starts. Who cares about the kids?
Oh, wait until Belichick leaves without ever coaching a game, and his son just
Stop
gets
it.
the job.
Yes, excellent,
There we
excellent.
go. There we go.
Wayne, go teach the kids. Roddy, go do 8 hours on XM.
Hey.
Felder, I'm here if you need me, buddy.
Great job, guys.
Taco bar.
Great year.
I gotta get ready. I gotta get ready for this taco bar for my wife's birthday party
I know
on
you do.
Friday.
I know you do.
On
you wanna
Friday,
bounce any
taco
ideas
bar.
off of me? You let me
Yeah,
know. It's
yeah,
Tuesday,
dog.
but we're grinding over the taco bar. You
I
love
gotta
to see
make
it.
carrot cake today. Bro, you don't know what it's like to put together a party for like 30 people.
No,
Okay, man.
certainly
That
not
is-
cooking for them.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a catering job.
Yeah, that's
No.
correct. Yes,
They got
Bro.
people that do that for a living.
yes.
Bro,
Felder
hey,
is that guy. He's
I'm
that guy.
him.
He's
I'm-
that guy,
I-
pal. He's that guy.
I am him.
I'm Himmy Butler, baby. Let's go.
Bro, how many
Very good.
tortillas do you have to make by hand for this thing? Like
I'm not
100?
making that's one thing I sacrifice is I'm not making the tortillas by hand, but I do have 100 tortillas.
Let's go.
That's
And
what I'm saying.
I also got Hungry Howie's coming for the kids, double
Love
cut.
Love that.
What's
Very good.
Hungry Howie's? I'm not
It's a
familiar.
pizza place.
Pizza place. Yeah, it's you take and bake. Folks,
It's not
thank
take
you-
and bake. They
It's
make
not?
it. No, they make it, and then they are the home of the original free flavored crust.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Hey,
right.
y'all shoot me the number for the hand in the dirt voicemail because I got some lawn questions.
Okay,
we'll get
sounds
you on.
great.
We're just gonna get you
We-
on
you-
live. If you
let-
can
what
work
do
us into
what do
your
you got
busy
going on
schedule.
Thursday morning?
Hey man, I got radio, but yeah,
We'll
I
do
might-
it. We'll
We'll
figure
make
it
it
out.
work.
I might
We'll make
I
it
might
work.
first time long time this thing. Hey man, first time long time.
Everybody, thank you for listening out there. We'll be back when we're back. But for now, hoop season.
About to get out there and hit the streets, Roddy.
Hey man, I'm about to get on that squat rack. 315 for 8 today. Let's go.
Woo!
Good
Look
for you,
at
buddy.
you. Let's go.
Go teach
Ain't
the
no
kids.
way.
See you
Teach
guys.
the kids.
See you
Out.
guys.
Bye.
Later.